السادة الحضور
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to welcome you once again, and we resume the speeches of the dear guests of Egypt Economic Development Conference, Christine Lagarde from IMF.
Well, good afternoon. Massa El-Sheikh. You have heard many... Shukran. You have heard many great speeches by many great men. And I have to say that I'm in the President's debt for taking the gender risk with me. Monsieur le Président,
Your Excellency, President,
Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, it's El-Sheikh, and to have been invited to this conference that was first initiated by late King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. Kulthum, Egypt's iconic singer, the Star of the East, once said, Wama Nailu al-Matahalibu Betamani. For those who do not speak this beautiful language, aspirations cannot be attained through wishful thinking, but through toil and perseverance. And this is really where Egypt is at the moment. The country needs to deliver on the aspirations of its people for stronger growth, better health and education systems, higher standards of living, and more jobs. Over the coming 5 years, there will be 600,000 new people joining the job market. So creating jobs for the youth of Egypt is an economic, a social, and a human priority. And this has to go hand in hand with restoring economic stability by reducing the fiscal deficit and reducing external vulnerabilities. Is it possible to do both? And the answer to that is yes, it is possible with the right policy mix. And some of those policies are already in the government's plan, and some of them are being implemented as we speak. The key is going to continue to implement them, to design them right, and to make them hold. So I would like to touch on 3 questions. One is, where are we in this reform process that matters so much? That's my first question. Well, the good news is that the journey to higher growth is already underway. Over the past few months, there have been promising strides on the reform front, and reforms that we would never have expected only a year ago. Consider reform of the energy subsidies, which began in mid-2014, long-standing item on the reform agenda, never implemented. The government and the President al-Sisi himself personally took that reform in their hands and decided to implement, and to go promptly, and to get buy-in from the people of Egypt by good consultation. Popular buy-in was achieved, and at the same time as the subsidy reform was being implemented, enough cash was made available in order to transfer it to the poor population of Egypt, which needed the support. Beginning the process was a major achievement. Pursuing it and seeing it through is going to be the objective. There have also been great measures in the area of taxation. Nobody likes taxation, let's face it. But there have been increases in excises on tobacco and alcohol, and now a plan is underway for implementing seriously VAT. Why is it important? Well, because the non-oil revenue of Egypt is only equal to 10% of its GDP, and that is particularly low for a modern economy as Egypt. So following through on the VAT will be instrumental. Now, looking at investments. Clearly, some major projects are already underway. You've all heard about the Suez Canal project. And the fact that this project was financed essentially by the ordinary citizens of Egypt is a testimony to people's confidence and desire to turn things around in the economy. Large projects like Suez, if selected and conducted efficiently, can deliver growth and jobs. But they are not the only response. You can also have smaller projects, and they can be equally important. The funding of these projects cannot only rely on the public purse, it also has to involve private investment, both domestic and foreign. But for that investment to materialize, there has to be confidence. So that's my second question. How can confidence be not only restored, but maintained? Clearly, continuing the reforms is a first order of priority. But there are also other ways to make sure that confidence is restored, and jobs are created, and investments are made. Let me give you just 2 or 3 examples. First of all, the business environment. Where does Egypt rank at the moment in terms of competitiveness when it comes to investment? 119 out of 142. Well, Egypt can, and I'm sure will do better than that. With the right policies, the right level of ambitions, Egypt could crack the top 50 in global competitiveness. And with the right reforms, it will. The new investment law is a very good step in that direction. But Egypt can do better than that. It can dismantle some of the inefficient regulations that it has. My colleague from the World Bank maybe will talk about that later. But if you compare how long it takes in Egypt to register property, if you compare how long it takes to enforce a contract, if you compare how long it takes to set up a company with other countries, the delay, the time frame is way too long, and that can be improved, and I'm sure that it will. Second area is openness to trade. Egypt's non-oil exports were only 5% of GDP last year. We heard some of the colleagues, China for instance, indicated that. Make sure that you can market your products, that you open both ways so that trade can pick up and generate activity. And that's where exchange rate flexibility, which has begun under the leadership of the governor of the Central Bank of Egypt, can actually play a role as well, and both support growth and Egypt's financial position as well. Third area, the financial sector. Do you know that only 10% of the Egyptian population has a bank account? 10% of the population has a bank account. Well, clearly by deepening and broadening the financial sector, by making sure that many more people have actually bank accounts, like India is currently doing, like Kenya did a few years ago, certainly it could help the economy. There has been progress already. The adoption of the microfinance law is certainly also a step in the right direction. So business environment, trade liberalization, deepening and broadening of the financial sector, those are areas that can generate tangible results in terms of increased investment and higher growth. Higher growth, is that enough? We've heard sustainable growth, but we know from our study that to be sustainable, growth has to be inclusive. So how can growth be made inclusive so that Egyptian growth is actually sustainable? And what do I mean by inclusive? Well, it means making sure that all Egyptians have opportunities. Youth, massively unemployed at the moment. Women, only 22% participation in the economy, as opposed to 77% for men. Disabled, people who would like to access and are not accessing, like the unemployed. That's what I mean by inclusive. And it means increasing the opportunities. It also means allocating the results of growth in a way that actually enables those to participate in the economy, to participate in the growth creation process. And that can be done by way of intelligent and efficient redistribution and use of public finances. Social spending, for instance, on health, required by the constitution in this country. Social spending on education in order to make sure that there is no mismatch between the skills and the jobs opportunity on the market. So if implemented efficiently, all those spendings can actually deliver results for the growth and for the investment in the Egyptian economy. Let me conclude. This is a moment of opportunity for Egypt. With the right policies, its government can deliver on the hopes and aspirations of the Egyptian people. Steadfast implementation of the reforms will restore economic stability, will instill confidence, and will spur jobs and growth. What can we do, we at the IMF? Well, we can certainly continue to partner with Egypt, as we have most recently in a renewed and deeper fashion. We are available, we are partners, we are committed, we will continue to be committed to Egypt in whichever way it wants. And as I just said to the President earlier on, I'm just a phone call away. And I realize how precious Egypt is. I started my remark with a quote from a fantastic musical icon of Egypt, a fantastic woman. So let me end with another one from an Egyptian literary icon, Naguib Mahfouz. He said, "You can tell whether a man is clever by his answers, but you can tell whether a man is wise by his question." So to quote the Prime Minister of Ethiopia earlier on, shall we sink or swim together? Well, this morning when I got up and I saw the sun rise over Egypt, and I was probably one of the first ones to swim in the pristine water of the Red Sea, I know we can swim together.
Mr. Mankour Najani from Senegal. Prime Minister of Senegal. Mr. President, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, Your Majesties, Royalties, and Your Excellencies, and dear invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to address this August Assembly on the name of Mr. Macky Sall, the President of the Republic of Senegal. that actually he couldn't come to Egypt, unfortunately. But this conference actually is coming in a very special conjuncture. Actually, it is actually marked by many things that making imperative the safeguarding of what we have hold very dear to us, which is peace and stability, which are the founders of any economic progress. So be it economic or social. And actually, it is really a good omen that we in here in Sharm el-Sheikh, in this lovely city, that we are witnessing this. This is the country which is actually the cradle of the civilization, the country of pharaohs, and also the ancestor of all this important civilization, Mr. President. And then actually in June 2014, that you were in front of history the commitment that to try to face all the challenges which are encountered by Egypt, and also to say that actually not only in Egypt but also in the Arab world, Mr. President. And actually the Arab Republic of Egypt is actually very strong and actually being in front of the terrorism which is actually threatening Africa, and that you have demonstrated by all the action and the commitments of all the Egyptian people that are conscious that this political dimension should have an end, and also that also in order to be able to guarantee the social justice. The President Macky Sall is always conveying his important suggestion, and actually also that you will be able to bring the stability and the peace. And here Egypt, which is representing the future, and that will be able that through the determination of the Egyptian people, as well as the will and the commitment of all the authorities, as well as to be able to return in force in her African continent, that we know that actually is Egypt is a key of the crisis that will be able to bear this problems in order to find the solution for this crisis. And actually that also and to be able to bring and stability and peace, and also that we can see all the indicators, economic indicators of Egypt that have seen a certain improvement in the Egypt, and that actually this is something which is a joy for us to see that Egypt is returning towards, as well as this is due to the policies undertaken by the government, and that these, of course, all these efforts that will be actually crowned by sir. And I have, in conclusion, I would say that the President Macky Sall, that actually to be able to know that I would like to say that he is saying that he is actually praising your efforts, and looking forward for a brighter future for Egypt.
السيد وزير الخارجية البريطاني.
The British Foreign Minister.
السيد فيليب هاموند وزير
the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, the British Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Federica Romero, Deputy EU Representative of Foreign Affairs and Security in the European Union.
السيد ميشيل سابا.
Mr. Michel Sapin, the Finance Minister and the French budgetary system.
Monsieur le Président de la République, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État, chefs de gouvernement, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, chefs de délégation, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'entreprise très présents aujourd'hui dans cette salle, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est bien sûr pour moi, en tant que ministre des Finances français, un très grand privilège et je dois le dire aussi un très grand bonheur que d'être parmi vous et de représenter lors de cette conférence historique et la République française et bien entendu
this is a very important moment for our countries and actually that for New Egypt that will be it is the renew of actually of the relation Egypto Franco, the French, and also it will be a sort of a stride for the future, and that for more than 200 years. That there were so many important relations, be it human as well as political and cultural. And today we can say that actually is well-known steps. And in order to try that the fascination of Egypt, this actually has engendered a very important cooperation between the two countries. And here actually that France has brought with great fear. With great happiness that actually has happened to be able to participate in the Suez Canal that actually has constructed this canal, and actually this is done by Ferdinand de Lesseps, and this is a sort of crowning of the relations between the two countries, and this actually has been renewed by President Sisi, and that actually we can say that Egypt is actually sending its lights on the region, where actually is playing a very important and pivotal role, and the importance of its population, the prestige of its culture, as well as the influence exercised by its leaders. It was really important for France, and not only for France, but for all the world, as well for Africa. And also that France and with the international community actually always try to be men of the major contributor, and also especially for the economic reform that has been initiated by President Sisi in a context that we know quite well. Egypt has committed itself for the very important reforms that actually has emerged from a certain vision, and has made it actually in order to try to make the development of its economy and the destruction of the economy actually, and we will go and be your partner in this road. And France actually that always is in the side of Egypt in order to accompany Egypt in this process of development, and to try to consolidate the democratic institutions actually in responding to all the needs of the aspiration of the Egyptian people. And this actually has been mentioned by President Sisi when he was in France last year for the cooperation between Egypt and France has been written in history, and has made a sort of a partnership which is sustainable, and actually that it has been constructed on a very important friendship, and in the same time that and this is been consolidated. So the economic cooperation between the two countries and that working very closely with France is trying to have a project, and actually that will be able to have and to make many projects that are important. This cooperation is aiming for the well-being of the Egyptian people, and actually I'm thinking of the metro of Cairo, which has benefited from the support of the French government, and also in be able to help in this traffic in this important metropole, and for this cooperation, and also for that when we are talking about employment for the youth, which actually they have the legitimate demands, and especially in the agriculture, or sometimes that some infrastructure, very important infrastructure for the tourism, and lastly that cooperation. Of course, it has also that has been directed to the environment, and I think that this will be very important for the youth, as well as that the commitment of France, and also that is going to be able to host the very big conference on the climatic changes, and we know quite well that France And here I'm thinking of some of the Egyptian projects that actually are going on the same line. And this economic cooperation that will be nothing without the enterprises that are going to fulfill it. And here I would like to salute and hail the president that all the enterprises of the different and the companies from the different the part of the world that they will show that we, and through the cooperation, they have managed to be able to resist to the challenges and the difficulties that Egypt has passed by. And despite the different difficulties, and that France has been always loyal to Egypt, and they have reinforced and trying always to support the investors, special French investors here in Egypt. And also that we can, and actually that we are going as French people, we are going, of course, to participate in this project that you are going to show us. And here I would like to say that to Egypt, and it is a message of friendship and a message of confidence, confidence in its future, in its security, as well as in confidence in its ability and its role in trying to strike the balance between the forces, especially in this important region, which actually is what is so many difficulties concerning the stability and the different problems. And that we in the international community has their eyes on you, on Egypt, and actually they are conveying their support, and of course France is giving you its full support. I thank you.
السيد أليكسي
Mr. Alexei, the Russian Minister of Economic Development.
Уважаемые участники конференции, дамы и господа, для меня...
Honorable participants, this is a great honor for me to be among you today in this economic conference that is considering Egypt's economic future. At the outset, express my gratitude and appreciation and the good wishes of the Russian president for the success of this conference. I convey those greetings from President Putin, the president of Federal Russia. We in Russia look at Egypt and its successes that are being realized thanks to the efforts exerted by the Egyptian government to solve all the problems that are being faced by the government, and in order to realize social justice and the protection of the environment and the development of the Egyptian society and contribution in Egyptian economy, in the world economy. We are looking at the Egyptian people as a brotherly and friendly people for the people of Russia, as has the case for the last 50 years of friendship among the two peoples. We were able to realize security and overcome and solve a lot of problems that are being faced by the Egyptian people in the field of mining, energy, and in the field of housing. And we are directing ourselves towards commercial exchanges that reach more than $5 billion between Russia and Egypt. There are great potentials for Egyptian-Russian cooperation. We have great work to undertake to solve all impediments of trade and provide logistic supports for Egypt and establish an economic free trade zone between Russia and Egypt, which is going to take place very soon. More than 3 million tourists from Russia visited Egypt in 2014, and our trade balance is growing greatly. We are working in the field of technology and the training of cadres, and we are supporting one another, cooperating in the field of investment and in solving problems. We find that there are great potentials in the Egyptian economy. We can invest largely in Egypt and in the business sector. The Russian investors can work in the Egyptian market with great comfort. We have great endeavors to undertake through cooperation. The Russian President Putin has visited Egypt, and this has pushed forward cooperation and understanding between the two countries in the field of nuclear energy, in the updating of the different electric power stations in Egypt, and finding energy sources friendly to the environment. We are also assisting Egypt in the field of oil prospection. The Russian companies produce about 20% of the oil produced in Egypt. We are cooperating in all spheres. That is our cooperation in all fields, in the field of locomotive industry, in the assembly of vehicles. We realize great potentials in order to be able to work together. We have tens of projects in which Russia can seriously cooperate, and there is more than 260 investment projects that we are following closely in Egypt, and there are tons of members in the Russian delegation representing the Russian corporations in the field of energy, industry, in the different production fields, and they are fully ready to cooperate with Egypt in its national projects. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable participants in this meeting, this Egyptian territory is the source of civilization for the whole of humanity. Here is the cradle of civilization, and we should work together in order to realize peace on this blessed land. We have to support Egypt's security. Here is the juncture of Europe, Asia, and Africa. We will work with you very seriously in order to overcome problems and face all challenges that impede a strong economy. The basic aim behind this conference is to jointly act in order to overcome all problems. We thank you for this wonderful conference and for all those who have organized it, and I thank you and wish you every success, and long live our friendship. Thank you. Dr. El-Sheikh Aganga, the Minister of Industry and Trade and Investment from Nigeria.
Dr.
El-Sheikh Aganga, the Minister of Industry, Commerce and Investment from Nigeria. Mr. Mohammed Abu Said, the Minister of Economy and Finance from the Kingdom of Morocco. In the name of God the Almighty, the Compassionate, and prayer be to Allah, Your Excellency, the President, Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me at the outset to express my gratitude for the kind invitation that you have directed to my country, the Kingdom of Morocco, to take part in the conference for the support of the Egyptian economy. in the resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, which reflects how far Egypt welcomes and is open and is able to modernize and develop. It is the country which goes back deep into civilization and knowledge. And in the name of the Kingdom of Morocco, I wish to congratulate the Republic of Egypt for the outstanding organization for this meeting, which includes a lot of participants and high-level representation, whether by the heads of state or the officials or the experts in the field of finance, civil societies, media, etc., expressive of Egypt's love to Egypt and support for its economy. It's admiration accompanied with confidence in the country and its stability, and in the high-level qualifications of its human resources, and in the good climate for investment that is available. It is also supported by the large market of Egypt and the great infrastructure projects that have been crystallized by the Egyptian government with professionalism and farsightedness, and through the guarantees of the legislations and the necessary investment laws that are incentives. The sovereign funds that of the big corporations and international funds and specialized and research centers, and the regional and international investors who have responded to this conference is not only a partnership with Egypt, but it is also a good opportunity to reap the fruits of contracting mutual interest and benefits and a strategic investment for the economic march of this country, whose stability is part and parcel of the stability in the region at large. We have no doubt whatsoever that this conference, this high-level conference, will substitute another stride towards the creation of wealth and job opportunities and a better standard of living for thousands of Egyptians, realizing equity and justice socially and economically. Ladies and gentlemen, Morocco, which is bound by Egypt by long historic relationships that are ever renewable, and an exchange between the two brotherly peoples with strong institutions, a solidarity that is constant in all self-determining fate. We adhere to mutual cooperation strategically, economically, commercially, human-wise, and scientifically. That conference and the different encounters that we'll carry out with the different Egyptian parties and the international and local partners is a good opportunity to discover and to deepen study in projects that will create a new dynamic stage that would add to the encounter, the forthcoming encounter between the Moroccan King Mohammed al-Khamis and the President of Egypt through the context that took place lately. Studying such opportunities and crystallizing in partnership contracts and is one of the most important duties of the two governments of the countries and their private sectors, so that they could submit them and sign them either during the forthcoming visit of the President of Egypt to Morocco or the High Egyptian-Moroccan Committee that will be held in Egypt under the chairmanship of the two leaders of the two countries. Hence, our focus will lie on investment projects, contracts and contributions in sectoral areas with good returns for the two countries and which are of priority and in the two fields in which they are appropriate. Our scopes are wide, our aspirations and ambitions are great because we believe in our qualifications and our abilities, and hence we look forward with our Egyptian brethren to have regional and international partners in the projects that we hope to be carried out together in the new regional markets through the windows provided by the two countries stemming from their strategic locations on the two sides of the African continent. Confident on our part in the importance of integration and coordination between the South and South. All our wishes for success in Egypt, for its great struggle in order to realize stability and open the scopes for human development and expertise through a clear-cut idea, look, and the strong determination, and the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. Thank you.
السيد مسك
Mr. Masagos Mohammed, Minister of State Affairs for Singapore.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister Ibrahim Mahlab, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Egypt is such a happening place. I was last in Cairo in October 2014 for the International Conference for Palestine and Reconstructing Gaza. I'm pleased to be back again in Egypt to attend this important conference. On behalf of the Singapore delegation, I would like to thank President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the Egyptian government for the excellent arrangements and warm reception. Over the past 9 months, the Egyptian government has taken a number of bold measures to restructure the economy and consolidate its fiscal position, including tax reforms and significant reduction of subsidies. Notably, the Egyptian cabinet has also approved an investment law that establishes a one-stop shop to make it easier for foreign investors to set up business in Egypt. These initiatives have been welcomed by foreign investors, particularly those from Asia. They seek to understand and explore new business opportunities in the region, especially Egypt. Egypt has tremendous potential due to its strategic location in the Middle East and the size of its domestic market. The holding of this conference is therefore timely. It also presents an opportunity for companies from Singapore to find out more about the developmental objectives and plans of the Egyptian government so that they can make better informed decisions about their investments here. Apart from business interests, I'm happy to note that there has been a healthy flow of bilateral cooperation and exchanges between Singapore and Egypt, particularly in the area of capacity building and human resource development. We are ready to share our experiences in areas of development, particularly in urban areas. In particular, we welcome Egyptian officials to take advantage of enhanced technical assistance, which covers training in 8 different areas, including customized in-country training courses on technical and vocational education. We also encourage the newly established Ministry of Technical Education and Teaching to take up the package, and we'll be delighted to facilitate this. Another potential area of bilateral cooperation is port development. In this regard, we welcome greater collaboration with the Suez Canal Authority, SCA, and other government agencies on the Suez Canal Regional Development Project. In December 2014, we hosted a visit by SCA officials to the Port of Singapore Authority. A delegation from the Ministry of Transport General Authority for Land and Dry Ports and the SCA also visited Singapore just last week. Such visits will deepen mutual understanding of the challenges facing our ports and help to facilitate greater cooperation. Lastly, I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank the Egyptian government for inviting Singapore to participate in this conference. Egypt is currently at a crossroads in its path of economic reform. I'm confident, like all of you here, with its strong political leadership and the support of its people, Egypt will be well positioned for sustainable growth and prosperity. Thank you.
السفيرة
Ambassador Livia Liu, the Special Representative of the Swiss government for trade agreements and the Ministry of Economy and Research in the Federation of Switzerland.
Your Excellency, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister, Your Majesties, Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a pleasure for me to address this important Egypt Economic Development Conference on behalf of the Swiss government. I would like to congratulate His Excellency President Assisi on his inspiring presentation at its beginning. I would also like to thank the government of Egypt for organizing this enlightening platform and high-level networking opportunity for economic and political actors. Ladies and gentlemen, Switzerland's presence in Egypt has been long and extensive, since the days in 1813 when Sheikh Ibrahim, a Swiss named actually Jean-Louis Burckhardt, discovered the Ramses Temple in Abu Simbel. Egypt has been a prominent and distinguished partner for Switzerland. It is no coincidence that Nestlé started its first Egyptian sales of infant food in Alexandria more than 100 years ago. Nowadays, all major Swiss companies from all sectors, pharmaceuticals, machines, food industry, financial sector, and many more, are present in your country and provide more than 30,000 jobs. Many of these companies are also present today at this company, the living proof of their perception of Egypt as an important economic partner. In fact, Egypt is not only a top African destination for Swiss foreign direct investment, but also Switzerland's most important export market on the African continent. Furthermore, Egypt is a major client of Swiss-based commodity trading companies that provide Egypt with grain, petroleum, and natural gas. I have no doubt that Egypt will remain of great economic interest for Swiss companies also in the future. My government as well has had a long-standing and strong relationship with Egypt. Over 35 years ago, an economic cooperation program was started with a Swiss contribution of around 500 million Swiss francs, or about $500 million. After 2011, a new chapter was opened with a broader program in support of Egypt's democratic transition. We believe that this program is benefiting both our countries and will deepen our already excellent and broad relations. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have already learned and will certainly hear more in detail during this conference, Egypt is sparing no efforts for the recovery of its economy. This is very good news after years of uncertainty. In order to transform the current economic rebound into sustainable growth, Egypt has already started to tackle a number of structural challenges. The new investment law is a good basis to cut the administrative burden, to provide incentives for innovation, and to strengthen the entrepreneurship, particularly among the youth. I'm confident that these kind of structural measures will provide the necessary framework conditions to restore Egypt's economic competitiveness, to create new jobs for a fast-growing population, and to tap into the true economic potential of Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, Switzerland congratulates Egypt for adopting its new constitution and encourages the swift adaptation of its legislation to this new fundamental law. We are convinced that the upcoming parliamentary elections will mark another important milestone in Egypt's democratic transition. To conclude, I want to thank the government of Egypt for inviting Switzerland to this important conference that will be a milestone in the economic future of Egypt. Thank you very much.
فخامة الرئيس نيكوس أناستاسيا.
Your Excellency, the President of Cyprus. يا دي النيل.
Your Excellency, dear friend, President El-Sheikh, Your Majesties, Highnesses, Your Excellencies, it is a great pleasure to be here today and address this distinguished audience gathered in Egypt for this exceptional event. This conference takes place at a turning point in the contemporary history of Egypt, as it finds the country entering a new era, an era which marks the end of political instability and the beginning of a longer-term process to reach the country's full growth potential. In this spirit, I would like to congratulate President El-Sisi and his government for the measures already taken to initiate structural reforms and promote investments. Their efforts are already bearing fruit, and I am confident that this conference will positively contribute towards this end. The Republic of Cyprus, from the very beginning, strongly supported Egypt's political reforms and economic development initiatives, which I must say are in the same line of thought as the current policies of my own government. Actually, the last or less than 18 months, it's the fourth time I'm visiting Egypt in order to prove that our old historic relations are still in force, and we're going to continue supporting in the EU or in all the international fora your case, our people's case. After all, modern successful nations need to be business-friendly in order to survive, since it is the private sector and foreign direct investments that drive the growth of the economy. The state's role is to create the optimal conditions for businesses to flourish and attract investments. No matter what efforts a government exerts into achieving progress, it is impossible for it to succeed if the security and stability of the wider region are not ensured. The actions of the extremist organizations in the region aim in the destabilization of the area. It is for this reason that we are welcoming the increasing international cooperation for combating extremist groups who barricade themselves behind religious fundamentalism. I would like to assure you that Cyprus, despite being a small island state, is actively supporting this effort. Distinguished friends, geographically, Cyprus has the privilege of being at the crossing point between Europe, Asia, and Africa. It also has the privilege of being a member state of the European Union as its most southern corner. Furthermore, Cyprus' strategic know-how of the region, as well as the very good relations we enjoy with all neighboring countries, have already transformed our country into a facilitator, linking our eastern and western neighborhoods in our common endeavors to achieve greater political stability, energy security, and economic prosperity. In this framework, and in an effort to bridge Europe, North Africa, and Near and Middle East, Cyprus would be willing to host an annual political and economic forum in which all the countries of the region, with our partners in Europe, could participate with the aim of exploring ways of further deepening the political, economic, commercial, and cultural links between the EU and all the countries of the greater area. The main guiding principle underlining this is that the mutual benefit is potentially of much higher importance and collectively more rewarding compared to any singular benefit. Therefore, joint cooperation in promoting our shared objectives of achieving stability, of achieving security and prosperity through addressing the complex challenges the Eastern Mediterranean is facing can have a positive spillover effect in building the foundations for regional peace. After all, economic partnerships create common interests and form an integral part of political synergies. Your Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished friends, I have no doubt that this event will provide valuable insight regarding the business environment in Egypt, providing to be an excellent opportunity for potential investors to identify new and exciting investment opportunities. I would once again like to thank President El-Sisi and the people of Egypt and express my sincere appreciation for their efforts and hard work in promoting Egypt as an attractive destination on the global investment map, and I wish them every success in their current and future endeavor, which Cyprus wholeheartedly supports. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Philip Hammond, Minister of Secretary of Foreign Affairs.
السيدة فederica
Mrs. Federica Mogherini, the Deputy of the European Union. Mrs. Syria Mordari, the Executive Director of the World Bank. Mr. Akhil Anguri. I'm sorry. We would like to welcome Mrs. Syria Muliani, the Executive Director of the World Bank. You are welcome, Madam.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister, and all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is really great pleasure for me to be here today on behalf of World Bank Group. This event marks an important step for Egypt. It shows that Egypt is open for business. It gives the world the opportunity to learn more about the country's vision. For us at the World Bank Group, it is part of our ongoing dialogue. It is a chance to identify better ways in which we can support Egypt in building a sound and equitable economic foundation that benefits all of its people. But as all we know, the country is facing challenges. This conference comes after 4 years of tumultuous political transition. Transitions are difficult, but they can pave the way for socially inclusive and equitable economic reform. Despite the challenges, there are signs that Egypt could be on the right track. We see promising attempts to address the macroeconomic imbalances. For example, reducing the fiscal deficit. They could bear fruit when spending is adjusted in favor of areas that improve productivity and address inequality. One such area is infrastructure. Investing in infrastructure projects could provide jobs for low-skilled workers. Improving public transportation will increase mobility while giving more people better access to the formal private sectors. Safe and reliable public transport are also encourage women to join the workplace. While fiscal adjustment is critical and painful, the Egyptian government is also aware of the need to protect the poor. It is good that Egypt wants to improve its social safety net by expanding its cash transfer system to the poorest member of society. The system Egypt is designing aims to reach an extra 500,000 households this year and could expand to another 1 million households over the next 2 years. The World Bank Group will provide initial support of 400 million to this program, aiming for the poor. Finally, the private sector can only be successful if it is operate in a business climate that encourages competition and level playing field. Reform in this area will be critical to make Egypt's economy grow. A successful private sector can create jobs and livelihood that millions of people are waiting for. The government of Egypt knows that in order to unleash the private sector, it needs to address governance. Good governance means rule of law as well as transparent and accountable public institutions. And as such, it is critical for achieving widely shared prosperity and reducing poverty. The Egyptian government has passed important legislation in this area, but the temptation to stay away from tough issues like addressing corruption or lowering barriers for competition will be high. So for reform to yield results, they need to be bold, and it will take persistence and perseverance. Egypt has some way to go. If reforms are done well, the benefit for Egyptian people could be countless. We know from experience that a positive business environment creates a large and diverse set of jobs. Vibrant private sector will contribute to Egypt's growth by helping develop capital, technological know-how, and management skill. The World Bank Group remains committed partner to the Egyptian people and often serve as a convening agent for the donors' communities. The World Bank current portfolio of $5.5 billion we will increase by $4 billion in the next 4 years. Our twin goals of eliminating poverty and boosting shared prosperity align very well with the need of Egyptian people and government program. We are preparing projects that strengthen social protection, increase affordable housing, and a better access to sanitation. Other key sectors we already support range from transport, energy, to agriculture and irrigation. Together with our hosts, we focus on reform that bring better health services and better education, especially to the poor and vulnerable. It is the young who are currently shouldering the burdens of the job shortage. More than 3/4 of the unemployed are between 15 and 29 years old. At the same time, poverty rates have increased to almost 25%. High poverty and high unemployment require serious attention, and our joint effort and the World Bank's support to improve education and vocational training, especially for the youth, is critical to address this issue. And our private sector arm, the International Finance Corporation, or IFC, is playing a strong role as well. Over the last 4 years, IFC committed almost $1.1 billion to 20 projects that are supporting companies with the ability to create jobs, boosting access to finance for small and medium enterprises, and demonstrating Egypt's long-term potential to investors. Looking ahead, it will pursue and strengthen its effort. So I am pleased that the government of Egypt and the World Bank Group have agreed to work together on 2 issues for the next 5 years: creating jobs, especially for young people through a large and diverse private sectors, and improving governance, a key ingredient to achieving social and economic progress in a sustainable way. Let me close by reminding all of us that development is not a sprint. It is a marathon. We are all aware of this. Egypt needs an environment in which the private sectors can thrive to create the job Egyptians need to build better lives for themselves. The country cannot afford to slow the reform progress. So again, patience and perseverance are important. It is good to see that Egypt is open for business. We should now work hard to push the door as wide as possible. The people of Egypt expect us to go beyond talking and put words into action. I thank you.
السيد أنخيل غوريا
the Secretary General of OECD.
السيد لي يونغ
Mr. Lee Young, the Director General of United Nations Industrial Development Agency.
Your Excellencies, honorable guests, it is a great honor to be here, designated by Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, to represent him at this important event and also deliver a message to participants on his behalf. The message reads as follows. I'm pleased to convey my greetings to all those gathered here for the Egypt Economic Development Conference. This conference takes place at a vital time in the global development as member states are hard at work crafting a post-2015 agenda and a sustainable development goals that are people-centered and planet-sensitive. Egypt has a critical role to play. The importance of this country to the region and the global community beyond it cannot be overstated. In Egypt, as it is around the world, inclusive economic growth, a free press, a thriving civil society, a credible and a trusted system of justice, an inclusive, transparent, and accountable government that promotes respect all human rights are all essential to build a dynamic and robust 21st century's economy. Development also requires security and stability, which are sustainable when security is the product of the public consent and the stability is the outcome of the legitimacy and the peace, the result of justice, democracy, and the good governance. The countries cannot attain lasting development without working to address discrimination and inequality and ensure the prosperity is broadly shared. We have seen too clearly the cost of economic and social disenfranchisement, and we must work together to help build a better, fairer, and more inclusive future for all. Thank you for coming together to advance sustainable development and social justice. Best wishes for a successful conference. Having taken this opportunity, I also would like to make one short statement on behalf of UNIDO. UNIDO has developed a very strong country program with this country, Egypt, and also we committed to continue our efforts to support the country in its economic development in terms of SME development and renewable energies, vocational training for more young people and women to get jobs. Thank you very much.